Battlefield 2042 was apparently back from the dead, or undead in this case. Earlier this year, DICE announced that they were moving on from the game and putting the next Battlefield game into full production, which I assumed meant more or less no new content. But they just dropped a new Halloween event with spooky versions of some of the current maps. The M1 Garand has been added to the normal rotation of weapons. There's an event pass, new cosmetics, and a Firestorm Easter egg? I'm legitimately surprised. Let's dive in and see what's here. So the Circle of Hell event just kicked off today, and it's going to last for 4 weeks, so you have some time to work through the content. Each week will include a new mixture of maps and modes to progress the event past. This week has hardcore or normal conquest on spooky night variants of Battle of the Bulge and El Alamein. And if you don't remember those maps, those are the Battlefield 1942 remake maps available in Portal. Now, of course, there's cosmetics that you can earn with this event, and I gotta say they're pretty solid, like the skins for Zane and the M1 Garand, which feel right at home considering the theme of the event, though there's clearly a lot of less interesting kind of filler items thrown out there. Now, when it comes to the night maps, they're actually pretty well done. There's some new Easter egg content that references the Sulis stuff from Battlefield 5's Firestorm mode. You'll notice new circles of fire, torches, and Sulis boxes scattered across the Battle of the Bulge map. And while the event name is called Circle of Hell, is the Circle of Fire also related to Firestorm, which had a big ring of fire close in on you? I want to talk about that a little bit later in the video. I like pretty much everything about these map reworks except for maybe the green tint, which starts to get a little old after seeing it for a while. They're doing the night theme the way I like it, which is enough light to actually see people, so the visibility is decent, but it does restrict it at further ranges. Now, a highlight for sure is that the M1 Garand has now finally transitioned into the normal rotations of weapons, so you can use it in base 2042 maps and modes. This was previously exclusive to Portal modes only. To bring it over, DICE have made several balance changes so it doesn't get absolutely dominated by the other weapons, and I think they've done a decent job. It's classified as a designated marksman rifle, and it hits like an absolute truck. It got a damage increase, more magazines, and I found that it's a really reliable 2-shot kill at medium range, but you're going to have to pace your shots because the recoil is a bit extreme. And while the balance update does make it a lot more usable, it's probably still going to end up as more of a novelty gun in the game in general, but at least it's usable and not frustratingly underpowered compared to the other weapons. Now, I gotta say, it was actually fun jumping back into hardcore mode on these maps. The reduced heads-up display and weapon selection makes it feel much more purpose-built and balanced. I had some really crazy streaks using the anti-material sniper rifle since it pretty much one-shots anyone you hit in the chest or the head, and I was generally impressed how different it felt coming back to 2042, given the night maps, the hardcore mode, the Garand running around, the spooky theme. It did feel like kind of playing a different game for a little bit. Now, not surprisingly, this event has some of that classic 2042 event pacing. DICE are drip feeding the maps and modes as they have done. Instead of giving us all 4 maps and all new modes on day 1, they're spreading the content out over 4 weeks. And you won't even be able to play all 4 maps at once. If you miss one of the weeks, you might not be able to play Orbital or Redacted. And I gotta say, it was already starting to get a bit boring just cycling between the same 2 maps round after round. And this has been feedback since DICE's very first events for this game, and I think they just don't have the resources to add more to it, but you know, it's just par for the course with 2042 at this point. Now, don't get me wrong, I am glad that 2042 is still getting some support as we wait for the next game in the franchise. It just doesn't feel overly special or noteworthy in general. The community also seems to feel a bit misled. One of the top posts on the 2042 subreddit is titled, "We were sold a special Halloween event. What we got was hardcore and not hardcore conquest, but it's nighttime." Now, getting back into that Sulis symbol from Firestorm, this symbol was, I believe, the company that dropped players into the Firestorm region on the map, and their symbol was on machinery that seemed to be potentially generating the Firestorm. We don't really know what the backstory was about. Maybe it's demonic in nature or has some sort of supernatural backstory to it, which I think could absolutely make sense. So maybe that's what DICE is alluding to here by showing it on a spooky Halloween event. There's also lots of fire circles around the map, which could just be for spooky set dressing, or maybe it means something more. Is this a DICE hint that Firestorm is coming back in the future? If we're trusting the leaks, then the next Battlefield experience is going to have some sort of Royale mode, which they're saying is going to be free to play. Again, that is based on leaks, but the leaks so far have been pretty accurate regarding 2042. And in my opinion, I think it does make a lot of sense to revive Firestorm if you're going to make a Battle Royale type game. Firestorm was actually a really cool, innovative Royale experience that developed a nice fan base that really wanted to see the game get the proper support that it needed. It just launched with no long-term gameplay and no bug fixes, and then shortly after it was canceled. But it was one of the only Royales I can think of that offered such high fidelity building destruction, adding to this incredible experience of not just being able to camp in buildings because you could easily get artillery striked or somebody could blow a hole in the wall and flank you, and it just added all kinds of really fun gameplay elements that I feel most Royales haven't been able to match. Now, all that said, DICE is very well known for putting Easter eggs in all sorts of their content, and a lot of it just doesn't materialize into anything. But this time around, I feel like there's a good chance that this one might actually be hinting at a Firestorm 2.0 at some point down the road. With the recent anti-cheat update, the last info dump and interviews with Vince Zampella, and now the seasonal event for 2042 with Firestorm Easter egg, it seems like DICE are sort of prepping some kindling as they undoubtedly ramp up for a major marketing push. Hopefully we don't have too much longer to wait before we get some actual information from DICE and some new marketing and plans for what's down the road. Fans of the Battlefield franchise have been in a drought for quite a while. You could argue they've been in a drought since Battlefield 5 lost support because 2042 really didn't fill that void that many players had. And even now playing the new Delta Force game, which is clearly ripping off a lot of Battlefield elements, it just doesn't quite scratch that same itch that Battlefield games offer. It's hard to replicate this formula. Many developers have tried, and so far it still seems like DICE is the only company that can properly do it. Which means for pickier players like myself that want something that feels like the true authentic experience, we just gotta wait for however long that's going to be. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about the Firestorm Easter egg in this latest map. Do you think there's any weight behind it? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave me a like, subscribe for more content like it, and ding that notification bell to beat the YouTube algorithm with me. And up next, check out my recent dive back into Delta Force to see what's changed and how the experience is stacking up against the competition. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.